Welcome to this Algebra 2 session on writing equations of lines. So what we're going to be doing is finding the equations of lines given the slope and y-intercept. The slope and a point on the line or 2 points on the line. We're also going to look at, given the equations of two lines, determine whether their graphs are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So our first one here, write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form that has a slope of -3 and a y-intercept of 4. Guys, these are your easiest ones to do. Slope-intercept form, if you remember, is y equals mx plus b. So all you need to do to write an equation in slope-intercept form is know the slope, which they give us right here, and you need the y-intercept, which they give us right here. So don't make this harder than it is. All you have to do is fill in the slope and fill in the y-intercept. And for some reason, students like to make this harder than it is. So what we do is we fill it in. We get y equals -3x plus b, which is 4. And that's your equation. All right, moving on. You can pause if you need to. Find the equation of the line in standard form that passes through the points -2, 3, 1, -6. So first of all, let's talk about what standard form is. It's ax plus by equal to c. So there's no quick way to go about getting the equation in standard form. You have to work your way to that. Okay, I don't want to say there's no quick way. There is a quick way. But that has to do with the -b over a that we've talked about before. And I don't want to get too involved in that because it can be tricky. So we're going to go through the steps to figure this out. The first thing that you need to do is find the slope. So this is when you're given 2 points. You need to find the slope. So we're going to do that first. And we are going to do, we'll start with the first ordered pair here. And we will make that x1, y1, then x2, y2. So y2 minus y1, if you remember our equation here, over x2 minus x1. So y2 is -6, y1 is 3. So -6 minus 3 over x2 minus x1. Remember to keep it in the same order when you're subtracting in the numerator and the denominator. And that gives us -9 over +3, which is a -3. Now what I'm going to do next is write it in slope-intercept, I'm going to write it in point slope first. Point slope form first. I could talk. Then we'll be able to get it into standard form. So point slope form is y minus y1 equal to the slope times the quantity x minus x1. So I'm going to fill everything in. Remember, you can pick whichever point you want. We have x1, y1 with the first point, but it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to fill in y minus y1 is 3, so -3. I'm using this 3 here. My slope, which I just found to be -3, times x minus x1. Now be careful here, guys. It's minus -2. Okay, so we'll put that extra step in here. It's minus -2. Don't just get rid of the minus sign or the negative sign on the 2. So we have a double negative there, so it becomes positive. And we get x plus 2 in the parentheses. Now to change it to standard form, all we need to do is simplify this and have the x and y on the same side. So I'm going to distribute the 3 through the parentheses. That'll give me -3x minus 6 on the right. I'm going to add the 3x to, because it's a -3x and I want it to be on the same side as the y, so I'm going to add it over here. That gives me 3x plus y minus 3 equal to -6. Now I'm going to add the 3 to both sides, and that gives me a final equation of 3x plus y equal to -3 for my equation in standard form. Okay, so when we wrote it here, this was point slope, and then we rearranged it to get it in standard form. All right, if you need to pause, you can do that. We're going to look at 3 more problems. Find the equation of the line in slope-intercept form that goes through the point -3, 2 and has a slope of -4/5. So we want it in slope-intercept form. We know the slope, so that's a good thing, but we need the y-intercept. So the best thing to do is to put it in point-slope form first. Can't get that out today. Point-slope form. We're going to write it in that form first. So it'll be y minus y1 equal to m times x minus x1. So y minus y1, x1, y1, so we'll be putting a 2 in there for y1. The slope is -4/5, and x minus, now it's a -3, so be careful there. And I'm just going to rewrite that before we start transforming here. Okay, so now we want to transform it so it becomes in slope-intercept form. And notice, I don't think I mentioned here, this was a double negative, so I made it positive like the last problem. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So that means that we want to solve this equation for y, and we want to have it in this form. So I'm going to have to distribute the -4/5 through the parentheses first. So that gives me -4/5 x. -4/5 times 3 is a -12/5. Now, we don't like fractions. We can get rid of them very quickly by multiplying both sides of the equation by the denominator of 5. I'm going to put the 5 on this side. I don't have room in front. So I've noticed, guys, I put parentheses around everything. That reminds me that I'm multiplying 5 times everything. Okay, so be careful of that. The 5 has to multiply the y, giving me 5y. The 5 has to multiply the -2, giving me -10. 5 times -4/5 is a -4x, and 5 times 12/5 is a -12. All right, so now I'm going to solve for y. That's what I'm working on here. So I'm going to bring the 10 to the other side of the equation. I'm trying to get everything on one side together. So that gives me 5y equal to -4x minus 2. I'm almost done. I have to divide everything by 5. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And we'll do that up here because we're running out of room. So dividing both sides by 5 gives me y equal to, remember the 5 is dividing both terms, so it'll be -4/5 x minus 2/5. So my y-intercept then is 2, or -2/5. So one thing to kind of get an idea of whether or not you did this right is we already knew the slope was -4/5. So when I'm transforming my point slope form here, I should get -4/5 as the slope. Because we were told that from the very beginning. So now it's in slope-intercept form and the problem is done. Moving on to 2 more problems, so you can pause if you need to. Find the equation of a line that passes through the point 5, 5 and is perpendicular to y equals 1/5 x minus 6. So hopefully you've noticed in your lesson that perpendicular slopes have a certain characteristic. What you do is you take the slope of the original line. So we want the slope of the original line, which is 1/5. So the slope of our original line is 1/5. Now to get the slope of the perpendicular line, what we do, and I'm going to use the symbol for perpendicular here. If you didn't know what it is, it's an upside down capital T. Okay, so the slope of the perpendicular line is going to be the reciprocal of the slope from the original line. It's going to be the opposite reciprocal, I should say. It'll be the opposite reciprocal of 1/5, which is a -5. So we'll write that down. Opposite reciprocal of your original line. So the reciprocal of 1/5 is 5, and we want the opposite, so it'll be a -5. So now what we can do, it doesn't tell us how to write this equation, so we could write it however we want. You'll have to look at your test. Does it have it in point slope form? Does it have it in standard form? Does it have it in y-intercept form? It really doesn't matter how we do it if they don't tell you. So let's do it as point slope form. So we will have y, since we don't know the y-intercept. So it'll be y minus 5, y minus y1. This is x1, and they're the same anyway, so, and y1. Y minus 5 equal to the slope of -5 times x minus x1, which is 5. So that's my point slope form. If I want to change it to a different form, I can do that. Like I said, you'll have to look at what they ask you to do on your test. All right, last but not least, you can pause if you need to. Which line is perpendicular to -3x plus 2y equal to 16? So the reason I chose this problem is because it is a little tricky how they wrote it. So you want to be careful here, but I can give you some hints on how to figure it out. Look at your slope for this line here, -3x plus 2y equal to 16. Remember we said when it's in standard form, the slope is equal to -a over b. So let's first figure that out. This is for our original line here. So this is your a, -3 is your a, 2 is your b. So it's going to be the opposite of your a, which is -3, over your b, which is 2. So that becomes a positive 3 over 2. So the slope of our original line is positive 3 over 2. So the slope of the perpendicular line is going to be the opposite reciprocal, or -2 over 3. The opposite reciprocal, -2 over 3. So what you can do is go through the list that they give you, dividing each equation by the number multiplying the y, and then you can easily see the slope of these lines. So if I divide both sides by -3 here, that gives me, for answer A, a slope of -2/3. So I know right away that this is my correct answer. So that's what you can do when you see this on the test, is go through, divide. You can see none of the rest are going to work here because this gives me a positive 2/3, this gives me a positive 3/2, and this gives me -3 over 2. So what I'm looking for is a -2 over 3. So I know that A has to be the correct answer. All right, have a great day.